Holy shit, guys. That episode might have been the greatest episode of Arrow of all time. Hey guys, it's Kevin again. This is my review for Arrow Season 3, Episode 20, The Fallen. And I just need to stress this out. Why are so many people complaining about this season? This is the reason why this is the best season of Arrow. Seriously, this was the best episode of all time, probably. And that's because of what this episode was about. It completely goes with the theme of the season. The theme of this season is sacrifice, okay? That's what this show is about now. It's about sacrificing the ones you love to do things that you don't want to do, but you have to do to save the ones you love. The stuff that Oliver had to do in this episode, he didn't want to do, and I loved everything about this episode. There were some amazing scenes in this episode. Seriously, some amazing game-changing scenes in this episode. And just, I loved everything about this episode. This episode was absolutely amazing. By far the best episode of the season. Obviously, best episode of the season. This season is just constantly delivering. And just, it really is making me wonder what the hell is going to happen in this finale. Because this episode was so crazy. It felt like they were setting up a finale, but it's not a finale. And let's just get into this episode because it was absolutely amazing and I loved every minute of it. So, we start off moments after the previous episode ended, of course. Ra's al Ghul has left Thea now bleeding on the floor of her condo, and literally moments, she's crawling through the glass remains on the coffee table trying to reach her cell phone. She has no idea what to do, she's trying to call 911, but literally moments after this happens, luckily Oliver comes home, finds her, calls 911, covers Thea's wound with a blanket, and carries her out, and you just see this devastating look on Oliver's face. He never thought that he would have to, do something like this, and it's just crazy what Oliver had to do in this scene. So at the hospital, the doctor won't let Oliver in the room where they're working on Thea. He watches as she starts to flatline, and the doctor uses a defibrillator and manages to start Thea's heart again. So at least Thea is stable. She's not, probably not going to live, but she is stable. So Oliver's pacing the waiting room until the doctor comes out, and she tells Oliver that they did everything they could, but that it is unlikely Thea will ever wake up. She's in a coma, and she's probably going to be there for the rest of her life. So Oliver asks to see her, and the doctor allows him into Thea's room, and she's hooked up to several machines and has a feeding tube. And Oliver takes her hand, and he's sobbing, and you get this great scene where he's telling her that he's sorry, and Malcom arrives, and Oliver backs away while Malcom approaches Thea and also starts to cry, and just such a heartbreaking scene to watch, such a hard scene to watch, but what an amazing way to start the episode. So we go to a flashback, and Oliver, Mazeo, and Tatsu are watching several military men around the truck, including General Shrive, and he combines the Alpha and Omega, creating the bioweapon. They know he's going to go someplace populated to release it, and Oliver steals a car so they can follow the truck. And again, this is kind of just showing Oliver's, rebel days, and I think in this episode it was trying to show, how much Oliver's changed since then. I mean, definitely it's showing that. So Oliver sits in the hospital waiting room, and Felicity and Diggle arrive, and Oliver tells them how Ra's left Thea to die, and through the window they see smoke, and Oliver knows is the League calling him. Diggle tells him not to go, and, he's like, don't worry about it, don't go, you don't have to do what he wants you to do, screw the League, but Oliver goes anyway. And I like what Oliver says. He says, basically, in 2 words, he won, because he did win. He let Ra's win. He didn't want to let Ra's win, but he won. He has no choice but to join the League, even though they don't want him to join. He literally has no choice now. If he wants Thea to live, he has to join the League. I mean, that's why Ra's did all this shit. That's why he made him that's why he made the Arrow, a public enemy. That's why he made him a criminal. That's why he made Roy fake his death. All this stuff that Ra's did to him just so he can join the League. So Oliver's like, you know what? I'm done with this. I have to join the League. I have no choice but to do that. And you feel so bad for him because he has to do things that he doesn't really want to do, but he has no choice. And Oliver then finds Mazeo, and he punches him, demanding to know if he was the one who stabbed Thea, and he is so pissed at Mazeo, because he has no idea if Ra's, because, I mean, think about it, he doesn't know exactly what happened. He doesn't know if Ra's killed him, or if it was Mazeo that killed him. He doesn't know who it was that actually, killed Thea. He doesn't know who it actually was that did it. And it's such a crazy scene. I mean, just the fact that he's doing all this just to save his sister is insane. And just, oh my god, such an amazing scene. So, basically, Mazeo tells Oliver that Thea can be saved if Oliver takes his rightful place as heir to the demon. And of course, heir to the demon, that means he has to join the League. And at the condo, Oliver's packing, and Diggle, Felicity, and Malcom all arrive. They're doing whatever they can to convince him not to join. And Diggle and Felicity don't believe that Thea can be saved. Now, of course, this brings up the idea of the Lazarus Pit. Remember back when they said they would introduce the Lazarus Pit? This is how they're introducing it. And that's something I love that Arrow does, is that we always think that this is how they're going to set up. This is what's going to happen. You can never predict what's going to happen on the show, and I absolutely love that. Yes, the promo showed that she was going to the Lazarus Pit, but if it hadn't been for the promo, we would not have known that they would save her in the Lazarus Pit. I would not have known that. So basically, Malcom explains that there are waters in Nanda Parbat that can heal. They have kept Roz alive for over 100 years, and that has on the occasion brought the dead back to life. And he calls it the Lazarus Pit. However, if you go into this Lazarus Pit, it does change you. It changes you into a different person, and Felicity thinks this is complete bullshit. She does not believe it, and she just doesn't really want to believe any of it, really. And I really did feel bad for, Felicity has some of the greatest scenes in this episode, which I will talk about, but Oliver tells her that he saw it, and Malcom tells Oliver that the pit changes people, alters their souls. He does not want that for Thea, and Oliver points out that all of this happened because of Malcom, and Felicity insists on going with Oliver, because it seems like the best thing to do. So Felicity walks in on Ray, who's working at Palmer Tech, and we get this really heartbreaking scene with Ray. I don't think this is going to be Ray's last episode, but I think we're definitely getting down to the point where Ray's not going to be a major part of the show anymore, because as you guys do know, Ray is probably getting his own show. If you guys didn't hear about that, Ray is most likely getting his own show. So, I find it interesting that every character that's getting their own show has some sort of romantic relations with Felicity. But basically, she walks in on Ray, who's working at Palmer Tech, and she asks him for a favor. He reminds her that the last time she asked him for a favor, she took his helicopter. She admits that she does not want his copter this time. She wants his jet, and she and Oliver need to go somewhere. Realizing how that sounds, she tries to assure Ray that it's not romantic, but I like what Ray says, and he's not mad at her here. He's saying that he noticed how Oliver and Felicity were with each other when they said goodbye to Roy. They were really close, and he knows that Felicity doesn't love him because when he said that she loved him, she didn't say, I love you too. She said, okay, and she said, thank you, because she still loves Oliver, which we have seen ever since her mother brought that up to her. Ever since her mother has brought up, you're still in love with Oliver, we've seen that she still is probably in love with Oliver, and she tells him she's sorry. Ray lets her borrow the jet, and I can understand if people are upset that Ray and Felicity ended, but honestly, they handled it so well that I can't think of a better way to break them up. I mean, he wasn't even upset about it. He's like, okay, I know you love Oliver, and I have to leave you now because you're in love with Oliver, and I can't be between that, and I can understand that totally. I think that was an amazing way to... I thought that was an amazing way to, end a great relationship overall. It was a really great relationship, and I really love their scene together, definitely. I think it was great, and if that is their last scene together, then it was a great way to end it, definitely. So Thea's wheeled on the gurney through the airstrip, and Malcom and Oliver follow, and Oliver explains that the hospital thinks they're bringing Thea to Central City for treatment, and Malcom thinks that's a good idea. They should ask for help at Star Labs, and he loves Thea, but he would rather lose his daughter forever than put her in the pit, and you can see that he really, because he knows that Thea's going to change somehow, and he really does not want that to happen to her. And honestly, I feel bad for Malcom. I mean, he just got her back. He got her back, and they were on good terms and everything, and now it's ruined. And Oliver tells him that, it will not be stopped. This is going to happen because he wants to save his sister. He's not going to let her die. He's not going to let her die on him, and he's not going to just let her sleep forever. He's going to let her live. And Oliver sits on the jet by himself. Felicity walks him and hands him a blanket. She's grateful to be going along, and Oliver points out that she didn't give him a choice. He knows that he told very little about the 5 years he was gone. He confesses to returning to Starling City, seeing Thea hook, and this scene I thought was amazing, because we've always seen Oliver be in this position to save Thea. He's always wanted to save Thea, and we finally see here why he's always wanted to save Thea, and why everything has really led him to that. He confesses to return to Starling City because he saw Thea. This is why he returned to Starling City. He didn't just return to Starling City because he returned to Starling City. This is why he returned. He saw Thea hooked on drugs and killed her dealer to protect her. Protecting her was all that he ever wanted to do. He never really believed that Roz would come after Thea. He just wanted to protect her. He never thought that it would get this serious. So That's why he's in Starling City. He was always there to protect Thea, and not just to save his city, but to save Thea, and I thought that was an amazing scene that we saw. I mean, he really never thought that it was that serious. He thought that Roz would come after him, and that's what we thought as well. We never thought Roz would come. I mean, Roz did say he'd come after everyone, but who would have thought Thea, out of everyone, he would come after? I mean, the Black Canary, I could see. I could have seen Diggle. I mean, there could have been 100 possibilities. But Thea's like the most unpredictable one, and that's something I love about Arrow, is that they hurt the unpredictable characters. Like, who would have thought that Moira would have, sacrificed herself in Season 2? Who would have thought that Tommy would have died in Season 1? Like, that's something I love about Arrow, is that they always put the most unpredictable characters in peril, and I just love that. So, in Hong Kong, Oliver drives a stolen car in pursuit of the military truck. The driver sees them in his side mirror and calls a warning. 3 soldiers in the back of a truck begin to fire in the car. Mazzeo shoots from the passenger side, then takes the wheel while Oliver climbs out the sunroof. Both men shooting. Oliver manages to fire himself from the car and into the truck, where he fights all 3 soldiers. The truck driver swerves, throwing Oliver off balance. Suddenly, a sword rips through the canvas side of the truck. Tatsu has joined the fight. She makes her way down the side to the truck of the driver, while Oliver finishes the fight in the back. And Tatsu throws the driver out, takes control of the truck, while Oliver goes to open the case the bioweapon should be in, only it's empty and the weapon is gone. So Oliver carries Thea, while Diggle, Felicity, and Malcom close behind. The entire league stands in to wait for them. And Roz welcomes Oliver home, calling him Asahim, because that's going to be his name now. And the rest of the league bows to Oliver, because they now know that he is going to be a part of the League of Assassins. And once inside, Thea needs to be prepared, and Oliver's reluctant to hand her over, until Mazzeo walks up to him and promises, and I love what Mazzeo says to him, because he needed to say this. I mean, Oliver didn't really trust Mazzeo, so this really sums up that he can trust Mazzeo, because he tells her, I will treat her like my own family, and I thought that was a great line. And Mazzeo then shows Diggle to this luxurious room to stay in, and Diggle recognizes him and calls him Mazzeo, but Mazzeo insists that he's now his Sarib. He really believes that Oliver's receiving huge honor, and I thought that was a really great scene, and Diggle calls them the members of the League weak men running from their lives. He says they are cowards, because honestly they are. I mean, they think of what the League are. They can't talk to anyone. They don't have any family. They're by themselves all the time. And Mazzeo tells Diggle that his son is dead, and Diggle apologizes and asks the child's name, and Mazzeo says that it's Akio, and Diggle asks if Akio would be proud of his father, and you just see that moment where, again, Diggle's always family first kind of guy. That's how Diggle's always been. And remember, he was planning on leaving Oliver's team, and he's definitely not leaving Team Arrow now. You see now that he knows that he can't leave Team Arrow, and I think something that Diggle's going to realize is that sometimes you just have to sacrifice things for your family, and I think this episode, Diggle is really starting to realize that, and I love that. So in the temple, Thea wears all white, and a woman runs the ritual, leading the league in a chat, and we have no idea what's going to happen here. It's such an intense scene. I love the way they do this scene. Oliver, Diggle, Malcom, and Mazzeo lower Thea into the Lazarus pit with ropes, and after being submerged for several seconds, Thea leaps out like an animal, knocking Oliver down and attacking him. 2 members of the league hold her while the woman uses a power to knock Thea out, and I had no idea what was going to happen here. She's just going crazy, and Roz tells Oliver to make peace, and Thea then wakes up in a bed. Now, there are a million things that could have happened here. A lot of people thought that Thea would end up going bad, like she would end up turning into a bad person, or like something just bad would happen to Thea. Maybe she would, maybe Thea would have turned to the dark side, or she would have, maybe had some sort of like weird superpower. Like there could have been a million things that could have happened to Thea, and the thing that happened to her again is extremely unpredictable. I did not expect this to happen, and I love that this happened because it's not what I expected. So, Thea wakes in a bed, and she does not recognize Oliver, claiming that her brother is dead, and she calls Malcom Dad and asks for Moira. And when she said that, I almost cried. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna cry. I'm not gonna cry here, because I almost cried. And Malcom gets Thea to go back to sleep, and she's like, I love you, Dad, because basically, she's thinking back to 3 years ago, and she doesn't even think that Malcolm's her father. She thinks that Malcolm's, her other father that, died and everything. And Oliver says that Roz told him the confusion would only be temporary. And Malcom is furious that Oliver did this to Thea, and Felicity's also furious because they think this is a permanent thing now, and because Oliver is staying in Nanda Parbat, and they're extremely worried about what's going to happen to Thea because they don't know if it's going to change her, if she's going to be this way forever. I mean, And I love this next scene. This was absolutely amazing. And this was by far Felicity's best episode. Out of anyone's episode, Felicity was the star of this episode. Emily Brett Richards in this scene stole the show from everyone. This was an amazing scene. Felicity goes to confront Roz. Fiercely, she says that she will not let Oliver stay. She's not going to let him do this because she doesn't think that he should do this, and she doesn't even think that Roz deserves him to stay. She, Diggle, and Malcom will go to war to prevent this, and if Roz knew what love was, he would never force Oliver to leave his family. And Roz likes Felicity's fire, and he tells her that he was once in love and had 2 children. Then one day a man gave him a choice. He could leave his family forever without a goodbye, or he could watch them die. So Roz left his family, and we see now why Roz respects Oliver so much. And I think this really made us care more about Roz, because that is exactly what Oliver did. That's exactly what he did, and Oliver has to do the same exact thing. And I love that scene because it's comparing Roz to Oliver, and who would have ever thought that Roz would have done the same exact thing that Oliver did? And I think that's amazing, but eventually it's kind of showing that Oliver's going to become just like Roz. While it may be a bad thing or a good thing, Roz did do this to save his family. And why is Oliver doing this? To save his family. That's what he's doing. And Felicity says he gave up too easily, and Roz responds that she's only delaying the inevitable and that she should say goodbye before he's lost you forever. He's like, say what you have to say to him. And when she said that, I'm like, we're gonna get the scene. We finally get the scene here. And this scene was so worth the wait. If you guys remember in that preview, we had that scene with Felicity and Oliver having sex. Well, that's in this episode, finally, and it was so worth the wait. So Oliver sits in his room. Felicity enters. Oliver remembers the last time he thought he would never see her again. He talks about how much he has changed since he got onto his father's boat. And when he got onto his father's boat, how everything that's happened since has led him to this moment. He doesn't know what it was all for. And he knew that his father's boat sunk. And basically, that was the last time he saw Felicity. He never thought he'd see her again. And now it's all led him to this. And Felicity saying that she can't stand losing him. She's not going to not ever see him again because she knows that she's never going to see him again, but she's not going to let that happen. And he's helped so many people, and she would not change any of it. She finally tells him, and she tells him, finally we get this moment here. She finally tells him that she loves him, and Oliver removes her glasses, and I'm like, it's happening. They kiss passionately, they remove their shirts, Oliver carries Felicity to the bed, they are kissing the whole time, he removes her bra, they lay back on the bed, and they have sex, and that was insane, seriously. Finally, we have waited for this for 2 seasons now, and I know some people are thinking, oh, it's rushed. No, it is not rushed. They've dragged it out enough, honestly. They've dragged it out enough, and it's time for it to happen. I've said it was going to happen, and it did, and I can't be more happier. I could not be more happier with the way it happened, because it wasn't like they forced them together. It wasn't. I mean, Felicity liked Oliver all along. She was with Ray, and now she's finally confessing her feelings for Oliver. Plus, this is probably going to be the last time she sees Oliver, if not forever, for a very long time. So in the military truck, there's no sign of the bioweapon, and Tatsu walks over to where a wounded soldier sits carrying her sword. She points at the soldier and asks where the weapon is. He refuses to tell her. She menacingly lowers the sword until it's pointed at his crotch. He admits is in the food court that General Shrive has used as a sort of table when creating the weapon. And Oliver, Mazeo, and Tatsu go to the crowded area where the food cart is, and Tatsu tells Mazeo that they're not just doing this to set an example for Akio. If they don't try to help these people, they are just shells. So we go back to Oliver and Felicity, and they're, they just had sex, and they're happy. I love the Felicity, so it's like, well, that just happened. She walks to him with a bottle and 2 cups, and he asks what it is, and she says that if there is a god, something alcoholic, she pours them drinks, and Oliver makes a toast to us. Basically, Oliver downs his drink, and Felicity apologizes. Oliver's vision blurs. He realizes that Felicity actually drugged him, and this scene is just amazing. She doesn't want to lose him. And I can understand someone thinks that Felicity's crazy, but to me, it just showed how much she loves him. She loves him so much she can't lose him. And she's just like, I can't lose you. I won't. And this scene was amazing, honestly. Again, Emily Richards stole the show in this scene. She was amazing here. And Diggle, Malcom, and Felicity stand around Oliver's unconscious form. Both men are livid, and Felicity begs Malcom for help. There must be a way out of the fortress, and he must know what it is. If they get caught, they will all be killed. And Malcom tells him about catacombs, which they can get through to the temple, because they don't know how to get out of there. Because, they have to find a way out. out, and Felicity sends Malcom to get Thea. Diggle carries Oliver over his shoulder while Malcom brings Thea, and they try to escape because they don't want to get him to join the league. They want to get out of there without Oliver having to join. And Malcom's fighting off a few guards. Honestly, it's pretty awesome. It really reminds us of when Oliver was killed, how strong they are without Oliver. It just shows us how far they've come. And Diggle shoots another team. Felicity manages to knock one out. There are more guards in the temple, but they're taking out before anyone in Oliver's group can make a move, and it was Mazeo. And he missed that Diggle got through to him and repeats Tattoo's word and basically says, if I don't, I'm just a shell. And I thought that was amazing that we saw that. That is why we saw that scene, because I love that line, because what that line is saying is that if we don't try to help these people, they're just shells, because that's what Oliver needs to do. He needs to save people. That's who he is. He's the Arrow. And in the catacombs, Thea becomes really scared, and Felicity's trying to calm her, but soon they are surrounded. Oliver suddenly wakes up and stands. He demands that the members of the league stand down, wants them to tell Roz he will be there shortly, and he's not angry at them. He's not angry and thanks them for trying, even telling Felicity that he loves her all for the more of it. And you see he gets a final goodbye with everyone. It's such a sad scene. It's so satisfying, though, because we know that the show's going to change now. It's not going to be Oliver and all of them, fight crime anymore. That's not what it's going to be. Oliver's not going to see them for a while, and he's serious about this. And Oliver walks his friends outside, and Thea's confused about why Oliver isn't coming with them, because, she's still kind of out of it, but he comforts her and says he will catch up later. Malcom takes Thea to the jet. Oliver says goodbye to Diggle, next calling him brother, and I love when he says to him, he's like, you're the best man I've ever known, because they really did have that bond. Diggle's always been there for him, and I love that line. I thought that was amazing that we saw that. And only Felicity remains in this next scene, and just, oh my god, this was just so worth it. I love this last scene to Felicity. Oliver reminds her that life is precious, and basically, life is precious, and he doesn't want her to give up on that. He can only survive if she's living and happy, and they decide not to say goodbye this time, because it's not goodbye. It's just goodbye for now, and after a kiss, he watches her walk away because she can't say goodbye, and it's such a sad scene because you see that she's not going to see him for a while. It's also really sweet because he's only doing this to save them. He's doing it to save them, and that's what Roz had to do, and that's what he has to do. So in the condo in Starling City, Thea and Malcom sleep on the two couches. They wake up, and Thea remembers hating Malcom even as he tries to comfort her. She can't remember anything after Roz attacked her. Malcom tells her what Oliver did. He promises to make everything up to Thea now that he's free, and he's free from them. He's free from the league. Like, that's something else that Oliver did. He saved Thea because now Malcom's safe and he can actually be a father to her, and he wants to take care of her. There's no more crazy training. There's no more of that, because now he can help her. He can save her, and they can have a happy life together, and he wants to take care of her, and I thought that was an amazing scene that we saw there. So Felicity goes to see Laurel, who we haven't seen at all in this episode because of course, Cisco and Wells visit her. Cisco and Joe visit her. I'm assuming that's around the same time here. And Felicity goes to see Laurel in her office, and Felicity explains what Oliver did, and Laurel holds Felicity while she cries. She knows that was really hard for Felicity, but she understands why Oliver did it. And in Nanda Parbat, Roz is not happy that Oliver just let his friends go. He wants to know why he shouldn't hunt them down and kill them, and basically Oliver answers because he came back, and I thought that this was an amazing line. And Roz knows someone must have helped him and wants to know who the traitor is, and Oliver honestly does not know. Mazeo confesses, and I love that Mazeo said that it was him that did, because Mazeo freed them, and he offers his life to Roz, and I thought that he was going to kill him, but he doesn't kill him. He says that he will not punish Al-Sarab for what Mazeo did. He thinks that Al-Sarab will be vital in the next few weeks, and you can see that Roz doesn't want to kill him because he probably was in the same situation. I'm assuming that because of what we saw, that Roz is so much like Oliver, I think that Roz is in the same situation as Oliver, and Roz turns attention to Oliver, telling him that Oliver Queen must be extinguished from memory, basically that all those things that he did, he cannot be remembered for that. He needs to now be part of the league. And in Hong Kong, Oliver sees the food cart. The fight begins with Oliver, Mazeo, Tatsu against the soldiers, and Oliver and one soldier fight over the vial, the bioweapon, both of them grabbing it back and forth from each other. Suddenly the vial goes flying. Oliver tries to catch it, but it hits the ground and shatters, releasing the bioweapon. And Oliver then walks into a metal stand which holds leather ropes. He grabs one in each hand, leaving his arms spread, and Ra's al Ghul talks about how assassin means someone apart from others, while he brands Oliver, because assassin doesn't just mean killer. Assassin is someone that's apart from everyone, because that's really what they are. They're isolated, and he brands Oliver as Oliver first appears dressed in the outfit that the League of Assassins wears, including an arrowhead necklace, and Ra's tells him that Oliver Queen is gone. He is now Asa, him, the Arrow, and that's how the episode ends. And what an amazing way to end such an amazing episode. Seriously, guys, this episode, as I said, was the best episode of the entire show. I'm going to tell you guys why. It felt like a series finale. It felt like a season finale. I don't know what the hell's going to happen in the season finale now. But now Oliver's done it. He's now part of the League of Assassins. And he had to do this all to sacrifice his family. But the thing about this episode is that we saw that Ra's is so much like him. And we saw that, we saw those final goodbyes. Felicity had an amazing moment. Diggle had amazing moments. I mean, everyone had an amazing moment in this episode. Malcom had amazing moments. Malcom is now free from the League of Assassins. He's going to be able to take care of Thea now, and there's so much to talk about. How is Team Arrow going to function without Oliver? I think they're going to be fine, honestly. I mean, we did see in the promo that definitely is going to get crazier, but now without the Arrow, I guess Black Canary will take over. I mean, it's probably going to be similar to what happened when they thought Oliver was dead. That's probably what it's going to be now, is that Oliver is not going to be there, and they're going to have to fight crime without him. But the thing is, they've done this before, so I'm pretty sure they can do this. The only thing is they don't have Roy, and it does look like possibly maybe Nyssa will join, because I did see something in next week's episode that's about, like, Nyssa tries to talk them about something, so maybe Nissa's going to join the team. I mean, there are a lot of things that could definitely happen. I don't know exactly what's going to happen, but there are definitely a lot of possibilities, and we'll see what happens there. Let's talk about Diggle. I love the moments with Diggle in this episode. Diggle's definitely not leaving Team Arrow now. We know that he's not leaving. Felicity. I feel so bad for Felicity. What's going to happen to her? I don't think this is the last we're going to see Ray, because I feel like Ray is going to join Team Arrow. I definitely feel like that's going to happen. But it definitely is going to be awkward between Ray and Felicity. I mean, especially because now that we know Felicity and Oliver are together, they can never be together. I mean, if Oliver ever does come back to Starling City, I'm assuming that Felicity and Oliver will get together, but they can never be together, and that's the saddest part of this. Laurel is Black Canary. She definitely, I think, is going to be a major thing here. How is Oliver going to be in the League of Assassins? What is it going to require him to do? What is different from him in the League of Assassins than the Arrow? Definitely, it's going to be a lot more extensive training. We see next week there's going to be a lot of extensive training. He even asked in the promo, what am I going to do now? And it really is us thinking, what the hell is going to happen to Oliver now? Because I don't know what's going to happen to Oliver now. There's so many possibilities of what could actually happen now that he's part of the League of Assassins. Because we don't know the League of Assassins as well. We don't really know what their job is, and I like that we don't know as much about the League of Assassins. It definitely makes us more excited for what's to come, and I definitely love that. I really don't know what's going to happen the rest of the season, guys, and I like not knowing what's going to happen. What did you think that scene, where Mazeo almost got his head chopped off, I thought was amazing. I really thought Mazeo was going to die in that scene, but no, Roz is going to let him live. And is Roz going to tell Oliver all the stuff that he had to go through? Because I don't think Oliver realizes that Roz and him are so much alike. That probably was honestly my favorite moment of the episode. Besides the Felicity moments, which I wanted for months and months and months. Now, I've said this before, I'm not an Felicity shipper. I am a shipper of what the show wants me to ship. I will support whatever the show wants me to, and if they want me to support Felicity, I support Felicity. I liked Ray and Felicity together, but Oliver and Felicity, that's really who we've always wanted together, and I've wanted them together since Season 2, and it was great that they finally had those moments together, and we're probably not going to have any more this season, but I definitely feel like this isn't the end of the Arrow. I feel like that part of the show, just the Arrow, being a vigilante, that part's over, because now it's about him joining the League of Assassins, and I can understand if a lot of people hate the show because of that, but it's all about transitioning. The best shows are the ones that transition, and this show is doing a great job of doing that. They're handling his transformation in such a great way. I love the way they're doing that, and it definitely is going to be a very difficult transformation from seeing Oliver go from vigilante who fights crime and takes down, all these criminals, to someone who has to be part of the League of Assassins and be isolated from everyone and be as, respected as Ra's al Ghul, be as hated as Ra's al Ghul. I mean, some people are going to hate him, some people are going to dislike him. He has no idea what he's in store, what's in store for him, and we don't know either, and I like not really knowing that we don't really know what's going to happen to Oliver in the next few episodes. And it's an amazing way to end the episode. It really was an amazing episode. I loved everything about this episode. And again, guys, the reason I love this episode so much, not just because Oliver, and Felicity have those moments, not because of the amazing Felicity scene that we got, which is probably the best Felicity scene we've ever had, not just because the Ra's al Ghul moments, because it summed up what this season's all about and what the show's all about. This show's about sacrifice. Think about it. Everything Oliver's ever had to do was about sacrificing for the ones he loved. He sacrificed himself for Thea. He sacrificed him. He almost, he let himself die for her to live, and he was brought back, of course, by Mazeo. But he sacrificed his, family to be part of the League of Assassins, so he can protect his family. And he's always sacrificed things, and I love seeing Oliver be in this position, just showing the transformation that Oliver's been in, and I loved seeing that. I love seeing that he came back to Starling City for Thea. Was an amazing moment, and I just can't wait to see what's in store in the next episode, because I honestly don't know what's gonna happen in the next episode, but I don't really want to know what's gonna happen in the next episode, because I like waiting, and honestly, it definitely is gonna be a very different type of show now, definitely. I mean, it's gonna be more of like a split story, but I'm really looking forward to it. Oliver transitioning from, Vigilante to League of Assassins, and seeing how Team Arrow functions without him, because I think that it's going to be tough. I think it's going to be tougher than they think, because now they don't have Roy. So who else can join? Maybe Ray will join, Nyssa will join. I mean, there are possibilities. Malcom I know does become something. I don't know exactly what he becomes, but he does become part of Team Arrow, and I don't know exactly what it is yet, but we'll see. But that's it, my review. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you guys thought of this episode. Overall, guys, best episode of all time. Best episode of all time. Absolutely loved it. And I will see you guys in my next video, which will be my review for the season finale of The Americans, which I cannot wait for. And I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.